Welcome to the 12th station. This is Jim Maughan, and I'm with my good friend and cohort, Mr. Bug Hall.
Howdy, y'all.
Bug, we all see it. Young men today, certainly not all young men, of course, but are not progressing as they have historically. There's a marked difference in their ability to achieve in the world. For purposes of this video, we're calling it prolonged adolescence in young men. Call it Peter Pan theory, failure to launch, the man child, whatever. In Italy, Bug, bet you didn't know this. They even have a name for it, and it's very, very common. It's called mamoni, and I've seen it firsthand. Which is loosely translated as a mama's boy, right? It's a very real phenomenon. I mean, it's actually kind of pathetic. There's this army of young men who still live in mom's house. She cooks and does their laundry. We're talking guys in their 40s, for crying out loud. They have no intention of getting married. Why should they? And they sit out on the piazza all day, catcalling tourist women, and there's no intention of taking our responsibility of a family, etc. And I just want to get your thoughts on this. Let's start there, and then we'll take it in terms of we'll break it down, and then we'll talk about solutions.
Yeah, well, rolling it back to the highest level. In the last episode, we talked about the sins of Adam, particularly the one sin he committed that Eve did not commit, which was dereliction of duty, right? Capitulation of his responsibility. And God gave to him the punishment that was going to bring about a correction in that, which was to toil and in thistles and thorns, right? So the idea there is that it's only through pain and responsibility that a man is made. There's no other route to it. You can't intellectualize your way to masculinity. It's simply pain and responsibility. Bishop Fulton Sheen actually talks about that as well. And I think you see that dichotomy really well in some men who have come into the faith. They've come in late. And for those of us who have had families and who have, sort of been living a, let's call it a life of responsibility for any number of, years, you see that there is a difference, right? Because even though they have the intellectual part of masculinity and the faith, they haven't quite appropriated to themselves the pain and or responsibility that takes that final leap, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, our culture is specifically designed in a way to infringe on young men's ability to mature. We've got a million things against us in the culture. Why should we? Right? Our nature is inclined towards the easy path, and there's any number of things in front of us that are just easier, right? I mean, I used to play a lot of video games, for instance. I mean, I could go 10 hours without thinking of a single responsibility. And obviously there's the pornography problem. There's the entertainment problem, right? Entertainment is cheap and easily accessible for a very small discounted price of however much a month. You have an endless supply of movies and TV shows available to you.
Right.
And furthermore, those movies and TV shows have now propagandized the idea that responsibility or what toxic masculinity is problematic to begin with. So young men are trained from an early age to believe that that there is no such thing as masculinity. It's a social construct. So why try, right? And schools push that issue really hard as well. The majority of Americans, the majority of Western culture is raised by the public system. They aren't really raised, even, and this is a hard thing to say, but even good parents aren't really raising their kids. They're allowing the school system to do it, right? Those kids are there for 8-10 hours a day, whatever. And whatever propaganda is pushed forth there during their formative years. And we're talking about especially the sort of kindergarten to middle school.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. All psychologists say this, even secular psychologists, they all say the same thing. The formative years are basically, 1 year old to about 6 years old. What you believe, what you are taught to believe in that time frame is very much, and of course, grace can overcome that, but that's very much what you believe the rest of your life. What's set in there is what you hold to, without the interference of grace.
You know who said that? The Jesuits.
That's right.
Back when they were good.
back when they were still the top dogs theologically, they very much so put forth that theory that those are the formative years. So what do schools do now?
Yes.
Schools teach boys that they are defective girls.
Right.
Right. And that's a phrase that a lot of people use, and I think it's accurate. Your natural inclination to work problems out amongst yourselves, even in rough and tumble type scenarios, has now been taught that there's an intrinsic problem there. Right. I remember when I was a kid, we used to get in fights, boys fight.
Sure.
And then it was almost overnight that suddenly schools had this new mandate to call the police. If you got in a simple fist fight, nothing egregious, just a normal old fist fight with, Billy down the road, even if it happened at the bus stop, which was technically the school's jurisdiction, you'd show up and the truants officer would be there and they would literally arrest you and make a big show of it, right? And parade you through the school and out.
Yeah, the perp walk.
The perp walk right through the school, right? So,
lovely.
And boys have more energy, right? They're really not meant to sit in one place.
No.
For 8 hours a day. It's not conducive to their nature. They need activity.
Sorry.